response video to Holiday, mostly. So you made a whole video. Won't play it. I don't think it's really a point. So the argument was pretty simple, which was, well, gee, this idea of value ethics, based on some reality of suffering in the world, is too obligatory. I mean, we have to compromise too much of our lives to, meet these standards. Yeah, that's exactly the problem, isn't it? That the truth does exist in that form. That's the reality. The reality is brutally ugly. That the fact is that you can do something. It's like the Vietnam War guy, the monk who catches himself on fire, right? The fact is he did something by doing that. It was actually productive. Did make people look and pay attention. And the truth is that's what it takes sometimes. People have to go to like civil wars and stuff and die horribly and awfully to fix something that's wrong. And that's just the way it is. Now, the only out you have in the world that exists, and the out that I probably take advantage of, is that the obligations aren't obvious enough. In the sense that the economy isn't obvious enough. There's no way to play the economy. It's so screwed up, the economy of value. So you brought up charities. You brought up charities and was just saying how, these charities are just kind of obnoxious. And I would agree. But what if, okay, it wasn't, Band-Aid charities. That's what I kind of call them. They perpetuate the problem, you know what I mean? You feeding a child is a disaster. Preventing a child is what you want to do. So instead of calling an organization Feed the Children, it should be called Prevent the Children. Because you really want to save people harm, you prevent them. Especially poor people who have no infrastructure and no possible way to do anything but just recreate their starvation. I mean, there's a ton of it just sitting out there waiting. A ton of people on UN food. Wait till the money runs out. There's going to be famine everywhere. It's because there's no infrastructure to cover it. So it's not really a charity. You're not really saving a life by perpetuating one that will create more living things. You don't want to save a uterus. You just really don't want to do that. I mean, it's, sorry, but that's what it comes down to. But what if we lived in a world where the economy was more obvious? Where you could, let's say there was a mountain, and if you climbed the mountain, it took 3 days to climb the mountain. If you climb the mountain, and you ring a little bell at the top of the mountain, it cures a kid of cancer. I have to admit, I spent a lot of my time climbing the mountain. I'd take whatever free time I had, time I'd go jogging or do this or do that. Yeah, I'd go climb the mountain and ring the bell. So, I mean, if we had a practical way to play the economy, to actually do the good, I think you'd do it. Because it'd be right there in front of you. And I think you're just making rationalizations about how it's onerous, but it would be obvious that this is the obligation. It would be obvious. I'm just saying it would be obvious to me anyway. I think it would be obvious to you also if it was that clear, if the trade-off was that one-to-one. So clearly we don't have that kind of clarity in this soup that we're living in. Some people, terrorists and such, think about things like this in the sense that they say, okay, well, I'll do something horrible. Some people will die, it'll be awful. But I'll have attention paid to the subject, blah, blah, blah. I'll be in the newspaper, people pay attention, blah, 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 blah. I win in the end. And they might. I mean, it's sad, but that's the truth. The Unabomber kind of won. Okay, you got a bunch of people that read his nonsense. And he did it on the, the pain and suffering of the victims. He blew up. And, but it's true, he won. It worked. So there's all kinds of economy like that. Short-term pain, long-term gain kind of thing. Lots of, like I said, you can't deny the truth of it. It's just a practical matter. The one rape now prevents 1,000 rapes in the future. It's just the truth, and it's too ugly a truth to live with. That's my argument. Okay? My argument isn't saying to you, you have to be obedient to logic. My argument to you is the logic's there. And your only choice is, you either play by those rules, which is going to be quite inconvenient to play by the logical rules, or you admit the game isn't playable. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say it's a playable game, will just violate logic. That's cheating. So you either recognize that the world is in a fucking horrid mess that has so much litter and garbage in it that yes, it's a gulag to clean it up. Building the nest, so to speak, for the birds now means you have to clean up all the dioxin and all the shit and all the crap. Not only do you have to build the nest, but you have to clean up the mess that the shitheads, the people laying eggs in shit, have created. And that's just a fact. And that, maybe in a more civilized world, your obligations will be less. There'll be less pain and suffering that's easily prevented. And so there'll be less bells, less mountains you'll have to climb to ring the bell. But that's not the world we exist in. And you can pretend, again, you can just say, I choose not to be logical. But that doesn't, again, how can that be defended in a conversation that's where logic's supposed to mean something? Or you have to concede this game is way too complicated to play. That it's too messy to play. That the very structure of it creates the necessity of oppression and control and conflict, and that you can't evade that in a sense. To get to some perfect world will require so much oppression and so much tyranny that the price will be too high. It's dependent on too many systemically malignant circumstances. They exist as facts. The fact that we live in a volatile environment even. That some people will just be unlucky. The tornado will hit them. And that we all have to pay into the insurance fund, so to speak, to cover the price of that. And you can't evade the responsibility. You can't live in lucky land and deny the price being paid in unlucky land. And to say you're complaining that that's the truth, well, I'm sorry, but yeah, it's the truth. And I'm not imposing the logic on you. I'm just saying the logic exists. Again, if you want to deny the logic, okay, and steal a life out of it, and pretend you're not committing a crime, denying the truth, or if you're going to say the truth matters, then you're stuck having to admit you can't make the game playable. You can't do both. You're just cheating. I think that's all I wanted to say on that. So maybe I'll take care of a Antikantavad video again while I'm here. So he's ending with this riding the tiger, and his metaphor of this riding the tiger means this idea of accepting life as unfair. Deserve doesn't have anything to do with it. It is mechanically and fundamentally a game that will grind up many for the advantages of a few. You can even see that in the economic system. The top 0.001% own more than the bottom 50%. And he says it's riding the tiger to accept those truths, okay, and somehow not be paralyzed or encumbered or whatever. And all he's doing is ignoring. So, I mean, he says it's riding the tiger. You're saying, how can he get away with this metaphor? He's not riding the tiger in the sense that he's really not accepting the reality. He's just denying its ability to affect him by pretending it's okay. By just pretending there's some redeeming value. So he's just eliminating the truth of it, which is pointless war, pointless horror, pointless torture, and instead just saying there was some redeeming purpose. We defeated the Nazis or something. So he's just inventing a function to justify. So to me, that's not really riding the tiger. Riding the tiger isn't rationalizing your way out. And as he's stated in previous videos, he's said it overtly. The truth is a tool. Facts are a tool. You manipulate them to serve you. You aren't their servant. You're not obedient to the facts. You are supposed to be obedient to your self-interest, your Nietzsche interest, in your pursuit of self-glorification, self-gratification, self-comfort. I mean, it's the definition of life through inconvenient truth denial. And that's all it is. And he calls that riding the tiger, though. Now, riding the tiger is acknowledging the waste, acknowledging the volume of the waste, and then still living. Not because it makes sense, not because it has a purpose, not because you've whitewashed it. And I say you can't do that. I mean, you can't live any kind of, hey, this is really cool, let's make some more kind of way. Bullshit. So anyway, I just running away from the truth is not riding the truth tiger. And it's really irritating that he gets away with this pretense that it takes courage to evade responsibility and accountability and full acknowledgement of the horror. Yeah. With this glib, you know, I'm manufacturing me, you know, and the price of the mortar, who cares how many bloods or how many bones it's made out of. And that's, yeah, it's not riding the tiger. Anyway, enough of that. I have watched whatever, half of the Puro room the other day, and I mean it's just too tedious to, you know, who could, you know, the arguments about math and infinity and, you know, just so obtuse and pointless, you know, so unrelated to anything real. I just, you know, I marvel, you know, that people can waste time on this crap. You know, when reality is just so visceral. I mean, it's just, it's right here in our face. mechanics of it, the skin and bones of it. It's with you. I mean, this is, these veins and these arteries and these tendons, this has all been here for 55 years. I've known this stuff. This is reality. This bullshit about how many subdivisions. Well, yeah, and his physics is wrong anyway, which I find, they get into the whole paradoxes, Xenu's paradoxes or whatever, and this is this stupid parsing of reality. That you could never get to a goal if you could only go a half way between the goal and the, you know what I mean? If you only took half the distance and kept doing half the distance, you'd never get there, theoretically. And somehow mathematically you can. Like if I take a step, I'm stepping over an infinite amount of subdivisions. And the truth is you're not. The truth is you do get to a Planck distance in time. And that's it. You just can't subdivide it. It doesn't permit any subdivisions because there's no time. You can't subdivide the time to do it in. You can't subdivide the function. And so that's, I don't believe factually that you can mechanically do that. Because in a way it implies a breaking of this idea of limits on time. And that's really the key one, right? I mean, people have talked about instantaneous force transmission. I mean, even there was theories about gravity at one time. And even now people are making some kind of arguments that gravity is instantaneous. But it can't be. Instantaneous would be impossible. Because instantaneous would mean that every effect, would be instantaneous. So every reaction would be instantaneous, and and it would just be, so everything would end up happening in the same moment. There would be no one event. There would be a chain reaction of events that would all happen in the same moment if it was instantaneous. So it can't work. So anyway, but I really want to get into that. So anyway, I do want to make a physics video, but I really want to do more writing first. But we'll see. I just, maybe I'll just make the video for the hell of it, just to sum up some things with, Hathaway's made some, made a video referencing some of physics and this idea that there should be a model, an explanation for how it functions. And I think, in a way, I think I've provided the substance of that, and he probably should acknowledge that, what I have provided looks close, if anything. I don't know what details he still needs to have, what gaps he still needs to have filled in, but it should be satisfying him to some extent. His last video, he did title it something in support of, but I didn't really hear the supportive part. But anyway, enough of that. So is there anything else that needs commenting? Probably is, but I'm tired now. I've decided I'm tired now. So till the next time.